So now I'm going to teach you how to sketch your cosine graph accurately. Okay, so before you start watching the cosine graph, you may watch the video show you how to draw the sine graph. So it's almost the same. So there are 4 steps in sketching your cosine graph, which is your first look at the angle here, and then the second one is this value, and then the third one is the amplitude, and the fourth one is labeling your angle. Okay, now, so we start with cosine graph. So cosine graph is actually start with this. So this is one full cosine graph. So this is one cycle. Means there's something looks like a cups here. So when we start drawing, so you have know this is the shape of your cosine graph. So now start with this one. So this is positive sine graph, a cosine graph. So of course this is a smiley cups. So this is 2 cosine graph in 360 degrees. So we know that there are 2 cosine graph here. So we start with drawing your y-axis, and then your cosine graph, which is this. So still the same, I use 4. Okay. So this is one cosine graph, and then my second cosine graph. Because I have to draw 2 cosine graph. Why? Because of the 2x. This 2x show you have to draw 2 cosine graph. So finish the 2 cosine graph. So I will start to label the value of your cosine graph in between your cosine graph. So this is half your cosine graph. 4. So this is half of your cosine graph, means this one is the balance point of your cosine graph. So this value is determined by this number. So this one is your second step, which is by labeling your balance axis of your cosine graph. So this is -1, so here is -1. And then the third one is labeling your amplitude. So how do you label your amplitude? So amplitude means here is 3. This is 3, or here is 3. So 3 means -1 plus 3, so this is 2. Okay, -1 plus 3, this is 2. So here negative amplitude will be -1 plus 3. -1 minus 3, so it's -4. So here will be your -4 value. So means that this one is -4, this one is -2. So after you draw your amplitude, so you can draw your x-axis. So your x-axis is in between -2 and -1 and 2, which is here somewhere. I just estimate, because now we are sketching a graph, not a drawing into scale. So this is 0. So this one is your x-axis. Okay. So after you have drawn your x-axis, the step number 4 is labeling your angle. So how do you label your angle? Always start with the last point at here. So this one is 360 degrees. So the first cosine graph will be your 180 degrees. So this one is your first cosine graph. And then one cosine graph, the half cosine graph, which is here until here, this one is your 90 degrees. Okay, of course, this one will be your 270 degrees. Don't worry, because you are sketching a graph, so the thickness or if they are not symmetrically, it's okay, because you are sketching. Unless you are told to draw your graph, so you have to draw it into a scale. Okay. Now, So this is your cosine graph. Okay, now I show you the second example of your negative cosine graph. Let's say you have y equal to negative cos x plus 4. Okay, negative cos x plus 4. So I will show you a lot of amplitudes which is equal to 3. Let's say this one is 1. So how do you draw your cosine graph which has amplitude 1? So still the same. First step is look at the angle. So the angle is 1x, which is x, it means 1x. So I have only one cosine graph. So I will draw a one cosine graph. Oh, sorry, this is a negative cosine graph because of the negative sign here. So we know that is a negative cosine graph. So if this is a positive graph, so this one will be my negative cosine graph. So my negative cosine graph, okay. So this one is my negative cosine graph. So I have finished my negative cosine graph. So I will look at this one, the balance axis. So the balance axis means it will divide your cosine graph into half of its amplitude. So this one is your balance axis. So this one is positive 4, means this one is positive 4. And then now this amplitude is only 1. Okay, now we look at the third one is this, the amplitude. So amplitude actually doesn't have any numbers, mean 1. So means your amplitude is 1 unit. So this is 1 unit, this is 1 unit. So we know that this value will be 5. Then this value will be 3. Why? Because this amplitude is 1 and this one is 1 also. So 4 minus 3, 1 is 3, and then this one you plus 1. Of course, after that you have to sketch your x-axis. So x-axis is below 3. So I will just sketch somewhere here. So this one is your x-axis. So you are not drawn to scale. So it's okay that you draw your x-axis like this. So it's more important is your x-axis is below 3. So we know that's somewhere here. So now we start to label your angle, which is the last step, which is labeling your angle. So labeling your angle start from the end point. So this one will be 360 degree. And then the peak one here, or you divide your negative cosine graph into half, so you will get 180 degree. So at here I don't want to okay, and then now we draw the 90 degree. How do you draw your 90 degree? So it's on, so in between your 0 degree to 180, so it's somewhere here, or you divided this half cosine graph into half again, so we know that it's somewhere here, which is is your balance point. So this one is your 90 degree, and this one will be your 270 degree. So that's it for your lesson in sketching your negative cosine graph.